Some more info on Shinobu came out. She looks fucking cool. Looking at her kit, some of you might be saying, what the hell does this mean? Well, I'll break it down for you. Shinobu is a new 4-star character. It's Electro that got teased for 2.7. Right after MiHoYo teased her on Twitter, a lot of leaks came out about her. It seems she'll be our first Electro healer. Let's get more in depth on this. Her skill follows the active character around, doing damage to nearby opponents, and restores the active character's health based on her max HP. So basically when you use her skill, a circle's going to appear around her, and you can switch off to any character, and that skill will still stay. While the skill up, it'll constantly do damage, and it'll heal that character you're using. And since the heals are based on HP, you want to get as much HP on Shinobu as possible. Right there, that tells me 4-piece tenacity is going to be great on her. Since the 2-piece of tenacity gives you 20% more HP, and the 4-piece bonus increases your damage every time that skill hits someone. Reading her burst, it sounds weird though. When she uses her burst, she'll stab a blade into the ground, creating a barrier that cleanses all things evil, all things foul, like what it says. This will deal continuous electro damage to opponents in that field, based on her HP. And if her HP is less than 50%, it'll last longer. But what does this mean by cleanses all things foul? Well, really, I have no idea, but I have some ideas. In Genshin, there's these things called debuffs. One good example is slowing water. What the hell is slowing water? Think about that one domain in Mondstadt, the weapon domain. When you have slowing water applied to you in that domain, and you use your skill, your cooldown on your skill gets increased. Well, there's some characters in the game that can cleanse that. Jean, Bennett, and possibly now Shinobu. Or I'm looking too far into this and I'm an idiot, and it just means a fancy way of saying it deals damage to enemies. But it would be cool if that little AoE area that it creates cleanses you when you walk in it. With her whole HP being 50%, making the barrier last longer, she's sounding a lot like a healer Hu Tao. When she uses her skill, she loses health, and when she gets below half health, her barrier lasts longer. So yeah, Hu Tao but healer. She also has a passive to where when she's below 50%, her healing bonus increases by 15%. So if she's below half health, her healing gets better, basically. Her second passive makes her skill have split scaling based on her EM. Her healing will be increased by 75% of EM, and her damage will be increased by 25% of her EM. What the hell does split scaling mean? Think about Yae Miko's little totem turret things. Those little turret things do most of their damage based on her attack percent. But the more EM you have, it'll add to that damage a little more. That's basically a simple way to understand split scaling. So instead of her skill just being based on her HP, it'll be good to have some substats on your artifacts that have EM to help increase that healing and damage a tiny bit more. But you still mainly want to focus her HP for stats. C1 increases her burst AoE by 50%. What's AoE? AoE means area effect. So basically, her burst area that it affects will get larger by 50%. Pretty simple. C2 increases her skill duration by 3 seconds. So basically, when you use her skill, it just lasts 3 seconds longer. C4 makes it to where when you have a character that's being followed by Shinobu's skill, and they use a normal or charged or plunge attack, and that attack hits an opponent, a mark will land on that enemy, dealing AoE Electro Damage, and that damage is based on her HP. Her C6 is basically just like Hu Tao's C6. When her HP drops below 25%, or she takes on a lethal strike, like she gets hit by something that's gonna kill her basically in one hit, she won't die, like Hu Tao. But instead of gaining crit rate, she'll gain 150 EM. That will last for like 15 seconds. And just like Hu Tao, this only happens every 60 seconds. So if your HP drops to 1 health or a lethal strike, you'll live. And then if it happens again in that 60 seconds, you'll die. But once that 60 seconds is up, you can survive a lethal strike again. So I'm pretty excited about Shinobu because this is our first Electro healer. The game has been out in over a year and a half, and we finally have a Electro healer. So depending how much her skill creates energy particles, I might be running her with Beto, Ayato, and Kazuha, or an Electro Taser team. And I'm sure there's plenty of Electro mains out there that want to have mono Electro teams. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Hopefully in the few coming weeks, we can get some more info on her. Maybe she'll get a few buffs, and maybe she'll get a few nerfs. We don't know. But once again, These are leaks. Leaks are due to change. Leaks can be false. So don't start saving your primos just yet if you're going for better reasons. If you're going for looks alone, then yeah, go for it for sure. Save your primo gems. Hopefully this video made Shinobu's kit make a little bit more sense, because reading it at first, it sounded a bit confusing to me.